Joseph Austin. The Bulls have already given their money to DeRozan, Ball, and Caruso. If it happens with LaVine, the Bulls will need to diversify their money. Even though I want to see White traded for a legitimate SF, doing a trade with White and Vooch might make sense. A trade of White, Vucevic, and a future first-round pick might be enough assets in exchange for the younger, more all-around big man in Rudy Gobert, and it might appeal to the Jazz? Sam Smith. Still hate the Jazz, eh? Hey, they lost the 2 finals. We're now about to embark upon trading speculation, fantasy season with all but 2 teams still unable to trade. But as unfair as it seems, the NBA isn't dedicated to trades that favor the Bulls. I often suggest to consider if you were a fan of the other team. Would you do that? So Gobert, even though I feel he's overrated, is a multiple All-Star and Defensive Player of the Year signed long-term, though for a lot of money. For an older center entering his unrestricted free agency season, a guard who struggled coming off the bench eligible for an extension and perhaps some future non-lottery pick several years away. Because if the Trailblazers lose Lillard, they're out of the playoffs for years to come. Now, I don't believe you can win a championship or get to the finals if Gobert is one of your top 2 players. Though with the money he makes in a small market, I admit there are some Jazz trade possibilities that might not make overall basketball sense. But with the Bulls roster hypothetically taking on that $40 million plus salary of Gobert's, you could be in salary cap hell. For a 4th option, I feel like you can get size and rim protection much more inexpensively. But from a Utah standpoint, given his accomplishments, they'd certainly expect more. And now being run by Danny Ainge, who is a notoriously demanding negotiator. Ainge was the guy who basically wouldn't give the Bulls more than Terry Rozier for Jimmy Butler. Not that he was right, but it suggests his negotiating pattern. Tim Consul. It's that time of the year where we can dream about building a super team in Chicago. I like to think we could get the superstar with health, displeasure issues with their other team, and it would get better here. With that, who are realistic trade targets? Do you think the Bulls could get any of these players, and who would it take to get them? Ben Simmons, Damian Lillard, Zion Williamson, Rudy Gobert, Anthony Davis, Sam Smith. No, probably not without maybe giving up DeRozan and Patrick Williams, and no. I can see a Gobert theme developing here with the Jazz, perhaps the combination of most disappointing, underachieving playoff, reorganizing team with the 2 stars who supposedly don't get along. Gobert makes $38 million next season and 3 after that, more than $40 million, which would be too much for me for what he does. I've always felt you drive into his body and he doesn't react that well. Zion's an interesting case due to be paid more than $100 million with rarely having played. The Pelicans probably want to take a look at him first given the public and potential box office interest. It would be too big a risk for me given his injuries and often lack of conditioning. Would he then change for you? The larger issue may be players are looking around and seeing that the join a big 3 model doesn't guarantee anything anymore. See Lakers, Nets, Clippers. And a max deal sounds better than getting yourself traded. Which seems why Lillard and Bradley Beal likely aren't going to be on the market. You interested in Westbrook, John Wall, Kyrie? On the other hand, there are some economic possibilities. With breakthrough guys like Jordan Poole, Jalen Brunson, Tyrese Maxey and Desmond Bane, some teams probably are going to try to mine other sources for an inexpensive gem. So I guess it's possible that a big name hits the market. But I also sense the Bulls are attempting that strategy with at least Patrick Williams and perhaps Ayo Dosunmu. I don't see LeBron letting the Lakers move on from Davis or the Nets from Simmons once he's ready to play. Richard Marr. Can the Bulls get Mitchell Robinson of the Knicks this summer as FA? He could help shore up the front line. Any chance they could trade or buy in for a 2nd-round pick in the upcoming draft? Sam Smith. With so few big-time free agents that seem on the move this summer, I suspect someone like Robinson will be out of the Bulls' price range. Plus, he gets hurt a lot, which perhaps is karma for taking out Patrick Williams. I think the Bulls can get a Robinson-type athletic 7-footer with the number 18 pick. They had success last year in the 2nd round, but don't have their own 2nd-round pick this draft. I suppose they could buy one, but not many are for sale these days, and it looks like they could have a very expensive summer otherwise. Michael Worth. Watched some Jabari Smith highlights and he is pretty smooth. Has quick moves and nice handles. He does need to bulk up. If I am Magic, I go with him and build around him and Wagner. Make Suggs the backup and get a vet PG in there. Sam Smith. Jabari Smith seems to be something of a consensus-safe top pick in a draft without one. They seem ready to move on from Mo Bamba, so some have suggested they'd take Chet Holmgren to play a modern stretch 4 with former Bull Wendell Carter, since Holmgren might have the higher ceiling. Given, he has trouble bumping his head. As I've noted, I'm not a fan of the big, skinny types. Though Holmgren's no bowl. Orlando still has Jonathan Isaac recovering for 2 years. With Franz Wagner, Smith would be another athletic wing in perhaps a Celtics-like situation with Wendell to bang around, and they still have a Bulls #1 coming next year. It's tough to dig out with so many young guys. You have to hit with one guy. Which is why the Bulls' rebuild phase didn't work. They never really got lucky in the draft. Consider the difference for the Bulls if teams didn't jump them in the lottery, who then had chances to draft Luka, Ja and Zion. Homer Sason. Is it true that the Bulls are interested in 7'3" Filipino center Kai Sotto? A story in New York said the Bulls are giving him a workout. Sam Smith. Well, the Bulls need a 7-footer backup big guy. I don't know much about him playing in Australia. He's mostly mentioned in the mock drafts as a second rounder, so I suspect the Bulls at number 18 would likely go for someone projected higher. He seems like the sort of guy who, if he slips through, you'd like to bring to summer league. Can't teach size and all that, and one of the Bulls' biggest needs is big.